All right, let's get it going. What's going on, everybody? I think we're going to have a lot more people trickling in over the course of the night because we've got to wait on Kentucky and Michigan State to wrap up before we can finally see the new set of top 25 rankings. But we have a lot to cover before we get to that point anyway. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We're so glad you guys could be here. Whether you're watching now, whether you're watching later, we are thrilled to have you here just to talk college football. Just to sit down and talk about what happened last week, what's coming up this week. Obviously, we're going to be watching the rankings live with you guys here in hopefully about 30 minutes. I know the game's got about 9.5 minutes left, and that's a long time in basketball. But we are looking forward to breaking those down with you live and then doing a little bit of instant analysis and reaction to that before we wrap things up tonight. So, Robert Sharpton, good to see you. Glad you're here. SBO Kennels, nice to see you as well. Glad you're here. R1, got the big Packers logo there. Congrats on the big win on Sunday over the Cowboys. Much needed win over the Cowboys. Good to see you. Eddie Rose, Anthony James. He goes, USC's at number 7, and I think you will probably be right on that. I think, the committee had him number 8. Oregon went down. So everybody should kind of shift up, and we'll talk about that here in 1 second. And then Jerry Turner, good to see you, man. Big Syracuse guy, which unfortunately won't be making the cut tonight, but still going bowling. That's the most important thing, right? Dina Babers is getting his team to a bowl game, and we're very excited to see them in the postseason. So good to see everybody again, whether you're watching now, whether you're watching later. We're so glad to have you as a part of our GE Nation. As always, make sure to like the stream, guys. Go through and like this live stream. And obviously, subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on any of the content we have for you going forward. I'll tell you what, we've got so much content left to produce. Obviously, we have Anthony. I'm sure you're excited. We got USC and UCLA. That video comes out tomorrow right here on the channel predicting the battle for LA. Utah and Oregon. That's going to come out on Thursday. We have a special playoff preview video coming out on Friday. Got everything coming back next week, obviously in preparation for the season finale. So Michigan, Ohio State, the Iron Bowl. I mean, so many big-time matchups that we'll be breaking down next week. Conference championships, and then bowl games. Bowl games. I mean, that's like the best time of the year, right? I mean, we get into the month of December, and it's nonstop football, and we're going to have predictions for every single bowl game this season. So we're very, very excited. So if you think, the season's winding down, we don't have that much left to do, you think again. We've got a lot coming up right here on the channel. All the more reason to subscribe, to like the stream, to share it as Robert did. Robert, I appreciate you. Thank you. And to hit that notification button so you don't miss out on live streams like this and you don't miss out on future videos that we have coming your way. Sarah Brown, good to see you. Glad you're here. Really, really glad you're here. Connor Hibbett, good to see you as well. They are Purduing it. Yes, they are Purduing it, or produce it. He says produce it. I like it. Very, very good. Purdue is Purduing it. I know that's been your team since the offseason. I think we have a video of you vouching for that. Also got my Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar here. Had to get a little bit of caffeine. Like, it's no sugar, but it's good. Like a little extra caffeine boost. To get me through the night, let me tell you what. R1, you can ask your question right here in the chat, man. Type it all out, and we're going to get to the chat tonight. We might take a couple callers later, perhaps we might, but make sure to drop your questions and comments in the chat, especially as we go through, especially once we go through the rankings, which will again be released here in hopefully the next 30 minutes or so. Graham Brooks, good to see you. Glad you're here. He goes, may not stay long. My son is making me lose sleep, so bedtime comes early. Understandable. Hey, I mean, I congrats. I don't know how old your son is, but obviously, judging from that, relatively newborn, I'm sure. So congratulations on that. I feel for you, man. I genuinely do. Sleep's valuable. You don't realize how much you value that sleep until you're getting woken up, consistently in the middle of the night, or staying up extremely late and not getting many hours. So I feel that, Graham. But I thank you for being here and all your support. We're happy to have you. Should Clemson just go with K, Klubnik? What do we have to lose now that the playoff is out? Why not, honestly? Because you're right. What do you have to lose? You're not going to the playoff. Obviously, an ACC title is still at risk here and at large, and you still have an opportunity to go to a New Year's Six bowl game. I'd rather go to a New Year's Six bowl game than the Cheez-It Bowl, right? I think everybody would love that if you're a Clemson fan. However, I think Cade's the answer. I think he clearly is the answer. And with not many games left to be played, you got Miami this week, got South Carolina next week, the ACC Championship against North Carolina, then whoever you play in your bowl game, be a great opportunity to get Cade ready for the future, because I think he should hopefully be the starter going into next year. Connor, everybody pull for Minnesota against Iowa. I am rooting for Minnesota against Iowa. Nothing against Iowa. I just picked Minnesota to win. I want to see the Golden Gophers end that 7-game streak. Obviously, I know, Connor, you want that because Iowa owns the tiebreaker over Purdue. So it's going to help out Purdue to get to the Big Ten Championship if Minnesota can pull off that victory. Especially since Purdue also beat Minnesota earlier in the year. Deion Thacker, good to see you. Gridiron expert, more like get good. I like it. That was a good one. That was Deion. Deion, I hope to see you soon. I apologize for having missed you the last few times. This last weekend was more justifiable, I feel like. I think so. But Deion, good to see you. Glad you're here, man, and hope you're doing well. Last two questions here. And then I have one thing I want to show to you guys as we prepare for the new set of rankings. I've got Kentucky and Michigan State on over here. I've got an iPad on over here. So we are set for the night, making sure we can watch it live with you guys whenever they decide to announce them. Hopefully this game will pick up. R1, just wondering, big Notre Dame fan, is there any shot we can still make a New Year's Six game, like if you're able to win out? What is Notre Dame, 7-3? 7-3, right? They've still got a game against nobody too good this week, if I'm not mistaken. They already beat Navy. I'm trying to blank on who Notre Dame plays this weekend. I know you have USC in the season finale. Probably not. R1, probably not because of just who they've lost to, right? Who Notre Dame has lost to. Marshall's not a good loss, obviously. Stanford is not a good loss, obviously. Now, if you beat USC, though, and ruin USC's playoff hopes and get a top 10 victory over USC, you might have a chance to slip in there, go to I don't even know what bowl game Notre Dame would go to. Maybe a Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl. I think those are the two tie-ins there. Not very likely, but the committee clearly did value Notre Dame following their win over Clemson. And maybe the win over Clemson and USC, if they can win that, would boost them enough into a New Year's Six contention. 9-3 is not an impossible mark for a team to go to a New Year's Six game. Great question there. Juice, how legit do I think the Lane Kiffin Auburn hype is? I'm hearing that he's closing in on an under-the-table contract effective after that. If that's the case, I would be floored. Juice, I really would. I would be absolutely shocked if that's what Lane Kiffin did. I mean, for me, why would you want to go to Auburn? A lot of people go, they have more resources and more money than Ole Miss. Sure, but the expectations at Auburn are much higher than that of Ole Miss. At Ole Miss, you're not dealing with a bunch of boosters that are meddling with you, and the first time you lose Nick Saban, they're wanting to call for your head. Auburn has these unrealistic expectations year in and year out, where the Tigers, for some reason, believe that they should be contending for a national championship every single year, and that's just not the case. That's just not the case. I mean, that's stupid for Auburn to believe that they're going to be that guy. I mean, I believe that Auburn has talent enough to compete in the SEC West, but to think that every year you should be at the top of those standings like you're Alabama is ridiculous. And I know it hurts seeing your in-state rival be that good, but you have a guy, an in-state rival named Nick Saban. No one else really has a Nick Saban. Closest guy that is really comparable to that is Dabo Swinney at Clemson in terms of sustained success at their program and winning national titles, being able to beat the GOAT. If I were Lane Kiffin, I would not want to leave Ole Miss to go to Auburn, especially when you're already established in the SEC West at a program that really, really likes you and is thrilled by going, 9-3, 10-2 consistently. Yes, you want to do better, but if he consistently produces those results at Ole Miss, the Rebels are going to be fine. The Rebels are going to be fine. They don't have the expectations to win national championships every year like for some reason Auburn does. Auburn acting like they're better than everybody else when they're really not. It just doesn't make sense. But great question there. Yes, Anthony, let's see what the committee has in store for us. And I'm going to come back to the chat. Yes, Infinite Treks, we do read the chat. We're actually going to focus on that a lot today. Dion, I appreciate you again to boost the stats a little. That's what we love to see. Like I said, hit that like button, boost those statistics, help us get more views and help us get more people attracted to this channel, especially tonight on a big night with the rankings coming out. But Anthony says, let's see what the committee is going to have for us tonight. And I will say, guys, that this right here is what the top 6 should look like. You know, last week was, when it came to the top rankings and the top teams in the rankings, was a relatively uneventful weekend. And I've got the results right here. Georgia destroyed Mississippi State 45-19. Ohio State destroyed Indiana 56-14. Michigan destroyed Nebraska 34-3. TCU only beat Texas 17-10, but that was a ranked Texas team on the road. And I will stand by that, saying that I thought that was TCU's best performance of the year. You know, some people would say, oh, no, their comeback over Kansas State was. No, the comeback over Oklahoma State was. No, the win at Kansas was. No, I think TCU's best performance was last week against Texas. I think that really showed how good the TCU defense can be. I mean, to stop that offense and Bijan Robinson and not even allow Texas to score an offensive touchdown, that's extremely impressive. Remember, Texas' one touchdown was off of a fumble recovery late in the fourth quarter. So TCU does have the offense. Clearly, they flex their muscles defensively. I think that was their best performance of the year. Tennessee was also at 5 based on the committee's rankings last week. They beat Missouri 66-24. So the top 5 should remain unchanged. Everybody took care of business. There were no really near upsets. There were no poor performances from the top 5. If Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, Tennessee is not your top 5, it is not the committee's top 5, we will have a problem. We will have a problem tonight if that's not what it looks like. LSU, we have at number 6. And that's who we believe who should be number 6 tonight. LSU was 7th last week. Obviously, their win over Arkansas was not that impressive, only winning 13-10 against an Arkansas team that was, did not have KJ Jefferson, their starting quarterback. Arkansas team that really hasn't been much of anything this year. That was not impressive, really, by LSU. However, there's no one underneath LSU that you could justify moving ahead of the Tigers. Oregon was number 6. They lost to Washington. LSU was right behind them. In theory, LSU moves up. You're not going to put Alabama above LSU. That's not going to happen. I don't think you can put USC above LSU. I still think, even though it was narrow, LSU's victory over Arkansas was more impressive than USC's win over Colorado. Colorado, arguably the worst Power 5 team in the country right now. You're not going to put USC there. You're not going to put Clemson there. So while LSU did not look impressive, there's no one else that can jump the Tigers for that number 6 spot because Oregon lost. So LSU should be 6. And then after that, from 7th on is where it gets interesting. No one really knows what to expect. Who's going to be number 7? Will Alabama get that spot? Is USC going to get that spot? As Anthony said, they believe that they should, but would the committee give a little more preference to Alabama for going on the road and beating a top 12 team in Ole Miss versus USC only beating Colorado? I'd be interested to see what they decide to do there. Alabama 2 losses, though. USC only 1. The one thing that's going to be very interesting tonight as well, again, this is what we believe it to be. These were the rankings from last week. Take a look, guys. These were the rankings from last week. And again, as we mentioned, those top 5 teams should remain the same. LSU could bump up to 6. USC possibly at 7th. Alabama at 7th. Really is kind of a toss-up there. My money would be on USC, followed by Alabama, Clemson. And then I mentioned who rounds out the top 10. UCLA went down. Ole Miss went down. So does Utah jump into the top 10? Does Penn State jump into the top 10? Do they give preference to North Carolina and shoot them up into the top 10? Following their impressive victory on the road against Wake Forest, which would be interesting to see if North Carolina gets that top 10 spot. I doubt they will, but if they do, you could see North Carolina start to flirt with college football playoff consideration. They win out, including a win over Clemson. They'd only have 1 loss, and that 1 loss would be to Notre Dame. And as we mentioned earlier, if they were to win out, if Notre Dame were to win out, that would look really good on North Carolina's resume. So very, very interesting to see what could happen. Again, these are last week's rankings. Now, I will say this. Come back to the main camera for a second. I will say this. I am interested to see what happens at the bottom part of these rankings. And many people will say it doesn't matter who's ranked 20th to 25th, things like that. But it does matter because obviously the committee weighs those things when ranking your top team. So, for example, I know Connor is very big on Oregon State, who thinks they might be able to jump back in the rankings after a short stint a few weeks ago, fell to Washington. They might jump back in. Why is that important? Well, USC beat Oregon State on the road earlier in the year. Someone goes and looks at Oklahoma State. Well, Oklahoma State get in the rankings this week. Why is that important? Well, TCU beat Oklahoma State. So the more ranked victories, especially by the committee, that these top teams have, the better it helps their resume if it comes down to an argument on Selection Sunday. So seeing where these teams fall tonight, especially in the lower part of the rankings, will be very key in determining how much it benefits the upper teams, such as, especially the ones that are on the border, such as TCU, such as maybe USC, maybe even LSU, guys like that. Well, LSU pretty much has to win out. They've got to win out to get to that point. That's what we're really excited to watch tonight, although we expect the top 4 or 5 to be about the same. I want to give a shout out real quick to Matthew Hazelhorst. Thank you very much for that super chat donation. Guys, the super chat is always on and helps our channel tremendously in a huge, huge way. He says, hey, can't watch tonight, but I have an SEC rant for you at some point. As always, a constantly salty Big 12 fan. I look forward to hearing about that SEC rant, Matthew, and we'll do it. I want to hear it. I want to get into it. Let's dive into it. But thank you, Matthew, again for that. Really appreciate that. Excited to see where your Wildcats fall tonight in the college football playoff ranking. So we appreciate you and your support. Again, super chat is always on, guys. Every single penny goes right back into the channel. Hopefully, trying to continue to build up our set, our equipment, and to continue to make this channel the best that it can possibly be. So Matthew, I want to thank you for that. I do want to give a quick plug real quick for our expert picks as well over on the gridironexpert.com. The link for that is down in the description below. Link for that is down in the description below. We are offering our spread picks for college football and NFL. We are hitting 62% against the spread this year. We are hitting 81% on the money line. The numbers are in our videos. They're legit. We are beating out 80% of the national analysts and handicappers each of the last 4 years. Not only are we beating them out this year, we are beating them out each of the last 4 years. And pretty much what we're telling you guys is if you sign up for expert picks, which these prices are one of the lowest prices in the entire country compared to anybody else you may find, if you sign up, you're pretty much guaranteed money. We're going to give you every single bowl game pick. We're going to give you every single NFL playoff game pick. It's a lot of value for such a low price. It's a year-long subscription, a full 365 days. So if you buy now, you get it through November. And remember, we have our goal this year of getting to those 100 sales, and we believe that we can get that. We are, last week we said we were 8 away, and that holds true. If we get 8 more, we are doing a 24-hour live stream. Yes, you heard that correctly. If we get 8 more sales, 24-hour live stream. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, because not only are they going to benefit from these picks and make a lot of money off of them, but you'll get to come right back here and watch 24 hours of nonstop college football coverage. We'll have guests, we'll have videos, we'll have games. It's going to be fun. It would be a great night, but only if we can reach our goal, and I believe we can get that with the help of you guys. All right. Just want to make sure we got that plug in there. All right. Go through a couple more questions tonight. I'm taking a look. We got five minutes left. Michigan State hanging with Kentucky as well, number 4 team in the country. But let's take a look at some of the questions in the chat here, guys, before we ultimately get to the show. I wanted to come on early so we could get to your questions, and then we could actually, prep a little bit for the ranking show, watch the ranking show, recap the ranking show, call it a night. That's kind of what we were looking for. Give you that instant reaction. Stephen Cuffey, good to see you. Glad you're here. Jackson Scholl, good to see you. Glad you're here. Thank you for your support. Do I think TCU has any chance in the playoffs? Because I think if they win out, they'll play either Tennessee, Ohio State, or Michigan. I mean, I do. I think TCU is just one of those weird teams, right? Like, it's almost like everybody's been expecting TCU to lose, waiting for them to lose, and they haven't. It's like they've had a great run, and they're like, okay, they'll lose to Kansas. They didn't. They'll lose to Oklahoma State. They didn't. Oh, they'll lose to Texas. They didn't. It's like, when are they going to lose? And honestly, when are they going to lose, right? Their toughest tests left are on the road at Baylor, who just got torched by Kansas State, 31-3 in Waco. And then probably Kansas State again in the Big 12 championship game, which could be a loss for TCU. You got to keep in mind that Kansas State was riddled by injuries in that game. They were up 28-10 at TCU, and then they got riddled by injuries at quarterback, riddled by injuries on defense, and TCU ended up scoring 28 unanswered and won by 10. at a neutral site with a healthy Kansas State team, I'm not ruling out a Kansas State upset, which would ruin TCU's playoff hopes. But yes, if they made the playoffs, they're going to go up against, if they get in there as that 4 seed, they're going to probably go up against Georgia. It'd be 1 versus 4. Could be Ohio State. And while TCU put on a fantastic display of defense this last Saturday against Texas, I don't know if they could hang with some of the better offenses in the country, like a Tennessee, like a Georgia, like an Ohio State. I just don't know if they could do that. But the thing is, TCU wins out, they are in. And to me, there's no debate about that. If they win out, they are in. And the committee has basically shown that too. You can't move anybody above TCU. They've put them at 4, so if they ever bump Tennessee over them or anything like that, it would look bad because they've shown basically, as of now, if the season we're in today, TCU would be a top 4 team. And if they win out, nothing on that should change. Great question, though, Jackson. I appreciate you. And I appreciate Eugene Murphy, my guy. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you in that Super Chat donation. Again, that goes a long way. So you and our man Matthew, big Kansas State fan, appreciate you both for that Super Chat. Again, every penny we throw right back in here along with the expert picks. We appreciate you guys. Thank you again for your support. Eugene is a member of the expert picks team. I know you and Stephen Cuffey especially have both really appreciated those and enjoyed those, and we appreciate you and your support again. So link for that again down in the description over on the gridironexpert.com. Help us get to that 24-hour live stream because I don't know about you guys, but I want to do it. I definitely want to do it. But Eugene, thank you so much for your support, man. It does not go unnoticed, and we really, really appreciate you. I want to go through a couple more questions here. Let's see here. Knoxville Will says, Auburn would be dumb. As soon as Nick retires, he's going to try and go there. Referring to Lane Kiffin, I'm sure. I don't know if Alabama would go that far with that. I really feel like when Saban's done, whenever he calls it quits, and who knows when he will, they're going to lean more towards Dabo Swinney. Obviously, Dabo went to Alabama. He played at Alabama. I think he's waiting for that opportunity because while he has built a dynasty at Clemson and has done so well at Clemson, the appeal of going back to where you played, the appeal of going to the SEC, and the rich history that Alabama has, I think would be too much for Dabo to pass up. Although, whoever takes the Alabama job, you are then filling in the shoes of a legend. And that's where it does get tough. Because Alabama is not going to, whenever Nick Saban's gone, they're not going to say, okay, we'll be content with 8-4. We understand a new coach coming in. We gotta bide our time. They're not going to be okay with that. They're going to want a guy that comes in there and immediately keeps winning, producing championships like Nick Saban has done. There's only a handful of coaches in the country that can do that. Dabo's one of them. Kiffin could be one of them. He definitely would have better resources at Alabama than he would at Ole Miss, for sure. But would he go there? And for Alabama, how long does Kiffin stay? We know Kiffin's got a reputation of bouncing around a lot, whether it's by his own choice or by getting fired. Would he stay at Alabama long enough to justify it? Honestly, for me, that's the peak, right? You go to a school like Alabama, where else is there to go that's up, that's higher, other than the NFL? I don't think Kiffin's going to make another trip to the NFL. So, once you get to that point, why would you leave? It's a great question, though, and a great point. Let's see. Infinite Trex, who's my Heisman favorite? Yours is Drake May, as I think he should win it, but it probably won't happen. No, it won't be Drake May as much as he should get more attention, and I hope Drake May gets an invitation at least to the Heisman ceremony. I don't know if he will. He's putting up ridiculous numbers. His numbers are actually better than C.J. Stroud's, but as some have been quick to point out, the reason that is because Stroud has been sat out of a lot of games early, like Ohio State crushed Indiana last week. They took Stroud out early, third quarter, early fourth quarter. Drake May is playing the entire game for North Carolina consistently, so obviously he's getting more stats and more opportunities than Stroud is. North Carolina's a legitimate team. They're a one-loss team. They're a top 15 team. They could easily be top 12 tonight when we get to the ranking show. So you do have to think about that. Most of the time they don't want to give the Heisman to a player that's not on an elite team. You could have a player in the trying to give a good example, middle of the pack ACC, just for sake of comparison, middle of the pack ACC that is lighting it up. But if his team finishes 7-5, he's probably not going to get the Heisman Trophy and get the attention he deserves. Why? Numbers are just as good as anybody else in the country, but his team is not in a national title or playoff or New Year's Six bowl contention, and therefore they're not going to put that much attention on him. I mean, think about all the players that we have seen that have put up really good performances and good numbers that typically don't get the attention they deserve because they're not playing on a good enough team. It can't be a one-man show. The Heisman is supposed to go to the best player in the country. Unfortunately, has slowly become mostly a quarterback award. It's more of an MVP award than anything else, which pros and cons to that. But my favorite probably right now would be C.J. Stroud. But I really want Drake May to have a shot and to at least be invited, at least get that chance. Let's see here. A lot of questions here. Robert Sharpton, what's my favorite fast food? Oh, man. Man, it sometimes depends on the region, Like, I'm a big, some of you guys might not like this, I'm a big Raising Cane's guy. I love Raising Cane's and the chicken there. Where I am, I don't have a Raising Cane's here. So when I'm in an area that has it, I am jumping on it, right? I am ready for it. I love it. I think it's great. I like Slim Chickens too. I'm a big fan of that. Ironically, I prefer burgers over chicken, but I mean, those two places, I can't resist them. Cannot resist Raising Cane's or Slim Chickens. But burgers, if I'm going to get a fast food burger, I'm probably going to go to Wendy's. Wendy's over McDonald's, honestly. Feels better. Feels a little bit better, not as gross. Good question, though. I like talking about some other things in the football. Anthony says he's got North Carolina beating Clemson handily. Beats Clemson handily. Impressive. I think it'll be closer than you think, that's for sure. R1, prediction for where Notre Dame ends up this week in the playoff rankings. Let's take a look at last week's rankings again. Notre Dame was 20th last week. Kansas State's going to shoot up, obviously, because of their dominant win over Baylor. Texas will drop down. Tulane will drop down. NC State will drop down. UCLA will drop down significantly. You could see Notre Dame honestly get as high as number 16 in the country tonight, R1. You really could. I don't think they're top 15 caliber. I'd be interested to see if they jump UCF over Notre Dame because UCF beat Tulane. I'd be interested to see that. Washington's an interesting team to see where the committee ranks them tonight. Still in the hunt for a Pac-12 title. Does Washington, look at the difference here, guys. Oregon is 6th. Washington is 25th. 19 spots separated them last week. Will the committee still rank Oregon over Washington, despite Washington owning the head-to-head, or will there just be a few separate? We have Oregon at 13th in our rankings, Washington at 15th. Some people will disagree with that because Washington owns the head-to-head rankings, but my argument to that is Oregon's 2 losses were by 3 points to Washington and to Georgia. Washington's loss, one of them at least, was to Arizona State, and that's a very bad loss. And that loss weighs more heavily than that to Oregon. So very interesting question and interesting to see. But I could see Notre Dame getting up to 16th. 16th or 17th would be my guess for Notre Dame this week. Chan Man, good to see you. He says, howdy. Howdy right back at you, Chan Man. Good to see you tonight. Let's see what. Jerry Turner says, hats off to FSU. Yeah, FSU's going to shoot up in the rankings, I feel like. USC wins out in conference champs. It's 3 straight ranked wins. Tough but possible. And Anthony, that's a great question. That's a really good question. Wow, 82 viewers, guys. We appreciate every single one of you. Welcome, just real quick, welcome to the Gridiron Expert, because I know not everybody here is subscribed. Not everybody here is familiar with the channel. So welcome to the Gridiron Expert. We talk college football 24/7, 365 videos every single day right here on the channel. Make sure to like the stream. Make sure to comment. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already. We have predictions every single week. We do game-by-game predictions all throughout the summer. We do recap videos across the board. We do weekly live streams just like this, taking your questions, your comments, and great discussions. Tonight, we are obviously going to watch the playoffs rankings live with you. As Reese Davis always says, we are seeing them at the same time you are. So we will sit here and look at those with you guys and obviously break those down as they come out. Really looking forward to that. But all of you guys, make sure to subscribe. Help us reach our goal. Obviously, the Super Chat is on, and we really appreciate any support we can get there, as well as the expert picks over on the gridironexpert.com. College football and NFL spread picks for an entire year, full 365 days, beating out over 80% of the national analysts and handicappers each of the last 4 years, including this year, currently hitting 62% against the spread. and 81% on the money line. So if you want guaranteed money right in your pocket, go sign up for those today, guys. Again, some of the best picks in the entire country. The price is one of the lowest in the entire country. It's $60 for an entire year. So you buy now, you get it all the way through November of next year, and we can guarantee you will come out with a lot of winnings, a lot of money directly in your pocket. So we appreciate every single one of you guys, all 94 of you. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, stick around for the College Football Playoff Ranking Show that should be starting here in, hopefully, I might get the game on over here, hopefully in about 10 minutes or so, depending on how many fouls we have in the next minute 45. We're going to be watching it live with you shortly after Kentucky potentially takes down Michigan State. We appreciate every single one of you guys being here. We're thrilled to have you. Spread the word about the channel and help us grow. Remember, if we get 100 expert pick sales, we only need 8 more for that. We're doing a 24-hour live stream right here on the channel. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers. If you love college football, this is the place for you. 100%. Stephen Cuffey, glad to see you. He's a fan of the expert picks. We appreciate you. Anthony James, yeah, half of the Pac-12 was bowl eligible. That's pretty dang impressive. Very impressive. Honestly, pretty wild when you think about it. Half the conference is actually going to a bowl game. I can't tell you the last time that really happened for Pac-12. Not only that, not only is the Pac-12 doing well from a bowl perspective, but from a national perspective. Up until last week, you had teams, a lot of teams in the playoff hunt. Oregon was in it. USC was in it. UCLA, and I was hoping really that UCLA was going to win against Arizona so that we would have had a potential top 10 showdown, battle for LA, playoff elimination game for both USC and UCLA, Pac-12 championship elimination game for both USC and UCLA. There was going to be a lot at stake in that game. And this week it's still a Pac-12 title elimination game, but with Oregon's loss to Washington, USC is now the only hope for the Pac-12 to get into the playoff. And as you mentioned, Anthony, it's a tough route the rest of the way. You've got UCLA this week for USC, then Notre Dame, and then whoever they play in the Pac-12 championship game, assuming they can beat UCLA and get there. It could be Oregon. It could be Utah again. It's going to be one of those two teams, and that'll probably be decided this Saturday as well. Utah and Oregon play in Eugene. The road to that is difficult, but to me, it would be very hard for the committee to leave out a one-loss USC Pac-12 champion that finishes the year with 3 straight potential top 15 victories. That would be a very impressive feat. And keep in mind, USC's only loss would have been by 1 point in the final minute on the road at Utah, who, if they can keep winning, would be a top 15, top 10 team at the time of the Pac-12 championship game. So it would be very interesting to see what happens there, and also interesting to where the committee ranks them tonight. Do they move up to 7th? Do they stay at 8th? Where do they respect? How do they respect USC? And obviously next week we'll be telling as well if they can beat UCLA, what that does for Lincoln Riley and the Trojans. Logan Elliott, good to see you. Mark TR, good to see you. Glad you're here, man. Better days are ahead for your Hurricanes, man. I'm telling you. They're getting better. I promise they will. Not this year. What are you, 5-5? You're probably going to lose to Clemson, so you're going to have to win the last game just to go bowling, right? But I think that's right. But it's coming. Just give it time. Connor Hibbett, Auburn's hiring me. Hey, Akron's hiring me. I don't know if y'all remember that. I'm going to be the head coach at Akron when Joe Moorhead gets fired, so watch out for that. I'm going to win the MAC here pretty sure. But Connor, have a great night, man. We appreciate you. Ryan Dobis, why hasn't the College Football Playoff Committee settled on 8 teams? To me, that seems like the ideal number. Each Power 5, the best group of 5, and best at-large team. I want to talk about that for a second, Ryan, as I give shout-outs real quick to Smokey T, Go Gators, Infinite Treks, Kyle Tonkovich. Good to see all of you. We appreciate you guys here. Donovan Ray, happy to see you. Jerry Turner, T-Balls. But Ryan, you asked a great question. Why have they not moved to that mark yet? As I find your question again. Let's see, I can't remember where you were there. I must have missed you, Ryan. But what we're looking at here, I want to show you guys what last week's rankings would have looked like with a 12-team playoff. So I'm glad you mentioned that. It would be so much better for a system. And these predictions, quote-unquote predictions, who we have in the championship is loosely based. We're not saying that's who we think would win. It was just kind of a rough draft. But you look at what the rankings were like last week, this is what a 12-team playoff would have looked like. And if you can't sit there and tell me that looks fun, that looks exciting, would bring more parity to the game, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Keep in mind, the first round of games would be played on campus. So Alabama would be at USC. Alabama would travel to the Coliseum. Tulane would be at Michigan. Ole Miss would be at Tennessee in the Lane-Kiffin Bowl. And then Clemson would be at LSU, the battle for the real Death Valley, if you so choose. That's what we'd be looking at. And then obviously the Elite Eight, those 4 games, and then the semifinals and the national championship would all be played at neutral sites. They'd all be played at the New Year's Six Bowl games. So the Cotton Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Peach Bowl, the Rose Bowl, all of those would be mentioned and would be sites. And the Orange Bowl would be the sites of those neutral site games for the quarterfinals and the semifinals. What you're looking at here, guys, is what we're going to have, and hopefully by the beginning of 2024. This is hopefully the setup that we're going to have for college football. Because for me, the playoff has been boring. It has been frustrating because you're putting 4 teams in there, yes, but the majority of these playoff games have been blowouts, and they have not been fun to watch. I mean, and I think for the most part, guys, when the playoff is chosen, we typically have a pretty good idea of who's going to win those semifinal games. Yes, you have to play the game. Yes, you don't know what's going to come of it, right? Like, you have to play the game because upsets could happen. But like last year, let's be honest, last year, did anyone really think that Alabama was going to lose to Cincinnati? Did anyone really think that Georgia was going to lose to Michigan? No. No. I mean, you got to play the game. Crazy things could happen. But we all felt pretty confident. And Georgia and Alabama were both very big favorites in those games. Both those games were blowouts. They weren't worth watching. You can probably count on one hand how many of these playoff games over the course of playoff history have been worth watching. They look great on paper, and then you can turn them off at halftime, right? Come back to the main camera for a second. I mean, think about it. The Georgia-Oklahoma game in the Rose Bowl, that was great. We saw the Clemson-Ohio State game a few years ago at the Fiesta Bowl. That was great. Alabama-Ohio State, the first year of the playoff in New Orleans, that was a good one. There's 3. What else is there? Help me out here. I'm really trying to think. Most of the games containing Alabama in the semifinals were not good games. They've blown out Clemson. They've blown out Washington. They've blown out Michigan State. They've blown out Oklahoma. Any game featuring Oklahoma besides the Georgia game was a blowout. Oklahoma losing bad to Alabama, losing bad to LSU. We saw Ohio State murder Clemson a few years ago with Justin Fields. That was a blowout game in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, we haven't seen close, competitive playoff semifinal games. Going to a 12-team playoff is going to allow for closer, competitive games, and I will sit here and tell you that, again, people are complaining, saying, well, the top 4 teams in the playoff that year are going to make it to the Final Four anyway, so what's it matter? And I'm telling you, you're wrong. It's so wrong. Look, in this scenario right here, the top 4 teams, based on last week's rankings, are Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, and Oregon. I do not think that all 4 of those teams would be in the Final Four. Based on what we kind of loosely threw out there, Alabama maybe could beat Georgia. Who knows? At a neutral site, who knows? Michigan maybe could beat Oregon at a neutral site. Tennessee could beat TCU at a neutral site. I mentioned that earlier. TCU really have the defense to hang with maybe the best offense in the country. LSU, Ohio State would be a great game, although Ohio State would probably win. But you look at that. Based on this scenario right here, boom, only 3 of the 4 make it. Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Michigan, both to me would be competitive games. So there's a chance you could see the 9 seed playing the 5 seed, 9-5, 2-6. And boom, only 1 of your 4 is in there. Only 1 of your 4 is in the Final Four. Parity, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for parity in college football. That's going to provide it. So Ryan, great question. Why haven't they done it? I don't know, but the fact they're finally moving on to a 12. All right. Scrolling through. Logan Elliott, good to see you here. Again, Chan Man, happy to see you. B. Ames, number 6, glad to see you. Lamar won the Heisman at 8-4 Louisville, though. I believe they were 8-4, 9-3, somewhere around there. But wasn't that the same year where Louisville was like the number 3 team in the country? They tanked at the end, but they were in contention for a while. That was the year that we had that thriller against Clemson. And I believe at one point they were number 3 in the country when they played, I believe it was Houston on the road and got murdered, but they were number 3 in the country. So there's something to be said for that as well. 8-4, but how they fared down the stretch. If Louisville had been 4-4 midway through the season, he wouldn't have gotten it. A lot of talk about Tennessee. A lot of Tennessee fans on here. Smokey T, Hooker and Hyatt would slash Georgia in a neutral site. Tennessee would beat both USC and TCU by 14 points. I'm loving the confidence. Kyle Tonkovich says, go Bearcats, Cincinnati fan. Glad to see you, man. Mark TR is heading out. Good night, Mark. Hope you have a good one, man. And let's see who else we have here. I'm loving it. I'm loving the discussion. This is why we love having these live streams, guys. Loving this discussion here as we are inching closer and closer to the rankings, guys. Hopefully we don't see overtime. If we do, I'm gonna scream. Oh, great. He missed the first free throw. So 61-60. Kentucky. 15.4 seconds remaining. Looks like Kentucky does have a timeout. See if I can pull up my iPad here as well.
And if there's a miss, right.
There we go. I got a little audio in there. I'm going to have to crane my neck. And, all right, sinks that one. Michigan State does have a timeout. Let's play it out. Just play it out. Please just play it out and don't go to overtime. Don't go to overtime. They call timeout. All right. I don't know if the committee or if the ranking show will come on another channel, or if they're going to wait for this game to end. I don't know. Why is it never easy? Why do they do this? Let's think about this. Why do we choose to do this? We have multiple ESPN networks, and I get it's for ratings. They're doing it for ratings, which I don't think they have to have a show for it anyways. But we've got a marquee basketball game, and you're going to put in a ranking show sandwiched in the middle of another marquee basketball game. You say it's going to come on at 8. It's already 8:15. It hasn't happened yet. It just doesn't make any sense to me why we do it like this. Just do it earlier. It typically comes on at 6. Do it at 5:30, right before the basketball game. Or do it on another channel at your normal time. Because I'm sure there are a lot of people that don't really care about Kentucky and Michigan State. So I don't know. That's probably just me. It's probably just me being old. But I just don't see the point of it. Especially if this thing gets delayed even more by overtime. And God help us if it does. All right, going through again. Stephen Cuffey, appreciate you. Got Icy Baller J, William Mackinville, good to see you. Bryce Sari, and I'm going to give you guys the rest of a shout out here. Let's see what Michigan State does. If they go for the win or the tie. All right, got batted out of bounds with 4.7 seconds left. And it's going to be interesting to see if Kentucky calls a timeout. They play this thing out. Looks like they're going to play it out. Fantastic. Beautiful cut play, and looks like we're going to go to overtime. That's good. That's great. All right. Great stuff. We'll see what they decide to do. We might have to end the stream like right after the rankings come on. I was banking on having this, starting this around 8:10 and getting some discussion going, but we shall see. But again, I want to give a shout out to Icy Baller J. Good to see you. New members here that we haven't seen in a while. So Icy Baller J, William McInville, Bryce Sari says, go Utes. So Bryce, good to have you here. Holly Abi, hello from Georgia. Go Dogs. All right, we got another Georgia fan on here. William McInville says, go Furman. Going from the FCS. I like it. The Paladins, is that right, at Furman? So good to see you. Happy to have you here. No, it has not started yet, R1, and God, I hope that Kentucky wins this thing at the buzzer. Hopefully. Let's see here. And John Scrubob, we will get to your question here shortly. I like that question. What are the chances of two teams from the same conference making it in at this point? And we will definitely be talking about that. Truancy's World, Dallas, Texas, in the house. Good to see you. Awesome. Glad you're here. And Jerry Turner. Sagar Patel. I don't know what that means. I don't even know if that's supposed to be a compliment or an insult, but I'm going to take it more of an insult, but that's okay. We appreciate you, Sagar. First time tuning in. We're glad you're here. Welcome to the GE Nation. Hopefully you'll stick around. Most Sheldons I've met have been pretty nice people. And here we go with Kentucky. 3, 2, 1. Gonna just, yep, there we go. Good stuff. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do. Assuming that the playoff committee does not release their set of rankings anytime soon, which is just unbelievable that this has to happen. I don't understand why this has to work. What we're going to do is we're going to open up the phone lines for just a few minutes. And the stream, unfortunately, will have to end shortly after. You'll be getting our takes as we are watching it live. Then we'll have to end it shortly after. But what I want to do is I want to open the phone lines just for a second to get you guys on. Just to get a couple callers. Again, it won't be long calls. A couple minutes max, guys. A couple minutes max. But let's get some callers in. 501-777. I'm pinning it to the chat now. 5861. It's going to be our call-in number for now. Boom. Give us a call. Give us your thoughts, quick thoughts on the rankings tonight as we head to overtime in the Champions Classic. Then hopefully we'll only have one overtime. It'll go by relatively quickly. I know we're all waiting in anticipation to see what happens tonight with these rankings. But as we get more people into the chat, again, I want to thank you all for being here at the Gridiron Expert. If it's your first time on the channel, we are thrilled to have you. This is the place for college football. We are building a community here. We are building what we call the GE Nation, and we are so glad that all of you could join, whether you're watching now or whether you're watching later. We are glad to have you because this is where college football happens, and this is where the best discussion, debate, and community happens for college football. We're getting a call from Lubbock, Texas. Let's get him on. All right, you are on the Gridiron Expert. Who's with us right now?
Yeah, this is Chauncey from Dallas, Texas.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
How you doing, brother? I just wanted to chime in on the playoffs in the situation. I really thought it should have been an 8-team playoff, to be honest with you. Not a 12 team. I thought it should have been an 8-team. I think 12 is too many.
It's kind of one of those things. So let me ask you this: is your 8-team format? Do you want to see the top 5, the 5 Power 5 champions, a group of 5, and the 2 at-larges? Is that what you're looking for?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm honestly not even opposed to that. I think that 8 to 12 would be okay with me. I like the 12-team format just because it gets more people in and would create a little bit more parity. I'm going to pull up what a 12-team playoff would look like based on last week's rankings. But the 8-team playoff would eliminate the bye weeks, and that's actually something I am in favor of.
There you go.
Yeah, if you get an 8, go ahead.
And the other thing was, I think TCU, I'm a Gator, by the way. I'm a Florida Gator.
Okay.
But our year is next year. That's when we're going to get our little people in, and that's when we're going to see what Billy Napier really can do. But for the time being, I'm really enjoying watching the Big 12.
Yeah,
For all the people that want to talk about the Pac and all that, I think the Big 12 is the most entertaining conference I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, from top to bottom, the Big 12 has been really, really fun to watch. And this was the year, coming into the preseason, no one really knew what to expect from this conference. You had so many new coaches, a lot of transfers, and I'm right there with you. I wish the Big 12 was honestly more competitive up at the top in terms of having teams flirting with the playoff. Last year we had a top 10.
Next year, that's going to be next year.
Think it's going to be next year?
I really feel like when BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, and Central Florida comes in, I do not think it's going to be a long waiting process before they competing for the Big 12 championship. I really feel like Texas and Oklahoma staying in the Big 12 for a year or 2 or however they're doing it, I really think that's bad for them because I think the new teams are going to come in and try to beat them up.
Yeah, I mean,
they're going to try to prove we're replacing you for all the people that say we can't. And I really do think BYU has a really strong brand, almost as strong as Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah, BYU's one of those unique teams, and it's hard to gauge BYU because they're a team that year in and year out typically fares well against their Power 5 opponents, especially those in the Pac-12. They play Utah, typically in the Holy War. They try to schedule Arizona. This year they had a very tough slate. They had Baylor, they had Arkansas, they had Notre Dame. Did not fare very well in those games. Only beat Baylor back in week 2, I believe it was. But
I think their year, if the schedule they got right now, if they would have had that schedule last year, I think they would have did a lot better. I think their team was way better, and I think they would have did a lot better. Baylor too. I think if Baylor would have had the schedule that they got last year, they would have been real dominant. But I'm just looking at the potential, and this is what I see far as potential. I see Houston turning into Texas.
Okay.
A lot of people don't understand that a lot of the talent that Longhorns get, A&M get, Texas get, a lot of that comes from Houston.
Yeah, it's a mecca.
Shore, high school, all of that. And if Houston's able to keep all of their talent, they're going to be a very dangerous team in the Big 12. And they're going to have that extra money that they're not used to having. Houston's going to blow up like no other.
Yeah.
And then BYU, I think their advantage is every time the years progress, they're going to be having people coming off their missions. These kids are going to be older and mature. And you're going to get an older, mature team every single year. And then you give them the money and the benefits and the resources. And that's what's going to make BYU power up. And then Central Florida, who knows? Cincinnati, who knows? Even though they made it to the playoffs, I just think Houston and BYU, they're going to be the most talked about when I look at it.
Yeah, I'm
looking at potential, potential in a 5-year span. Let's say BYU mess around and win the Big 12 2 years in a row, something like that, and then they win a national championship in that 2-year period. They already proved what they needed to prove.
Right. No, I get what you're saying with that, and there's a lot of. Well, I'm gonna do truancy. I'm gonna hang up on you so we can get the phone lines back open. But I'm gonna keep touching on what you're saying right here on the chat.
All right, bro. Well, I appreciate you, man, and God bless.
Hey, appreciate you. Thanks for calling in. All right, that was Truancy's World. That was his name in the chat, at least. And great points. He's talking about how fun the Big 12 is. And I like what he said a lot about Houston, And it'll be interesting, honestly, to see if Dana Holgorsen sticks around at Houston. He was in the Big 12 at one point with West Virginia. Left to go to Houston. Now Houston's going to jump right back in. But, Houston had a lot of success as Michigan State misses that shot. A lot of success in the Southwest Conference. Obviously, a former Southwest team back in the 80s, 90s before it obviously disbanded. And the Big 12 adding those teams was huge. Adding teams like Cincinnati and Houston and BYU to replace Oklahoma and Texas when they ultimately move on to the SEC. But there is a lot of untapped potential with the teams that are coming in. We have seen Houston play relatively competitive football. We have seen Cincinnati play very competitive football. Obviously made the playoff last year. BYU traditionally is a very solid school. Are they going to be able to replace the production and the talent that Oklahoma and Texas have been putting in for years and years and years? Not at first. Maybe over time they can. And if you thought the Big 12 was fun to watch now, it's going to be a lot more fun to watch going forward because it's going to be even more wide open. You are losing two of the biggest brands in all of college football that are traditionally powerhouses. Now you're going to have to replace it. Who's it going to be? Is Kansas going to keep building themselves up? Kansas State, Iowa State. I love Matt Campbell. It's a down year for them, but they're going to be pretty solid. You still got TCU, obviously the front runner right now. Oklahoma State still sticking around. So what does that do for the Big 12 going forward? It's been a fun year already. It's only going to get better as time goes on. All right, Kentucky needs a basket here. They just got into Shebway, who missed it. Retains possession, 1-point game. Don't go to double overtime, please. That would be terrible. We are ready to see some rankings, aren't we? Aren't we? Like this chat, like this video, like this live stream if you're ready to watch the playoff rankings. Maybe that's what we'll do. Maybe that'll boost those numbers, right? Like it if you are ready to watch the playoff ranking show. I wanted to get to John's question here. What are the chances of two teams from the same conference making it in at some point? And we're going to get to that question as we put someone from New York on hold. Hey, Jerry, I want to put you on hold for 1 second, man.
Okay.
All right, John, what are the chances of two teams from the same conference making it in? It's looking very, very good. And I think it's looking really good on the SEC front more than anything. And someone may ask you how. Georgia's already a lock. Unless Georgia were to slip up to Kentucky or Georgia Tech, and I don't see that happening, Georgia is going to the playoff, even if they lose to LSU in the SEC championship. It's the same scenario that we had last year. Georgia was undefeated. They lost to Alabama, and they still got in. All that's going to matter for Georgia is their seeding at this point. Georgia is in the playoff. Now, the question is, if LSU beats Georgia, does LSU get in as a two-loss team over a one-loss Tennessee? Or if Georgia beats LSU, does that one-loss Tennessee team get in? Because here's the thing, Michigan or Ohio State is going to lose. It's going to create a battle there, but I would put some good money on two SEC teams getting into the playoff this year, whether that's Georgia and LSU, whether that's Georgia and Tennessee. Georgia's a lock, so it really just comes down to the result of the SEC championship game. I feel very confident that they're going to get in. So that's going to be the interesting scenario to watch going forward. But yeah, I think your odds are very, very strong of that happening. Real quick, I want to get to Jerry and his question here as we hopefully near the end of this Kentucky and Michigan State game. Jerry, how's it going?
It's going, G. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just ready for these rankings to come on TV. We've been waiting too long for this.
Yeah, me too. I still think a lot of it's going to remain the same except for who's going to take Oregon's spot.
You think what now?
I said I think a lot of it's going to remain the same except for like that sixth spot where Oregon was.
Yes, I agree. I think that's going to, more than likely LSU will take that spot.
Yeah, that's what I have. I have LSU.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's going to be your top six. Again, this is what we believe, and pull that back up. This is what we believe the top six should be in that order for those watching the stream right now. But Jerry, what's going on, man? What are we talking about today?
Well, just dealing with a 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, and I feel for you, man. I mean, I really think that Clemson game broke Syracuse, you know? That's just such a tough game to get over. Obviously, it was a game that Syracuse felt they should have won. And so, you know, when you lose a game in that heartbreaking of fashion, and some would say controversial fashion, it's hard to bounce back from that. And clearly that's been the case for Syracuse this year.
And then last week versus Florida State, I mean, hats off to Florida State. Mike Norvell has done a hell of a job turning that team around, and it shows this year.
Yeah, he definitely has.
They just laid waste to Syracuse. That game was over by, like, early second quarter.
Yeah, no, if my man Mike Myrick was on here, he'd be talking about him. Yeah, Florida State has been phenomenal, and they could be in the running for a New Year's Six bowl game if they can continue to win out, which is very, very feasible. It's kind of nice to see Florida State doing well. I know obviously that's not fun when they beat up on your team like that, but the team is slowly coming together. Syracuse, you know, Jerry, I got to ask you as a fan, are you as disappointing as the 4-game losing streak has been? Are you just at least happy that you're going to be going to the postseason?
Honestly, no. Because, I mean, the expectations I had at the beginning of the year, and a lot of us fans said, well, most fans were like, okay, let's just win enough to go to a bowl game. But some of us knew, like, the team could do better than 6. I mean, I had them as an 8-win team. One of my friends had them as a 10-win team. So, like, between 8 and 10 wins, we knew we could get that 5-0 start, but to lose like we have been lately, like last week, Florida State was good, but we quit. That was basically it.
No,
Florida State just...
That's definitely what happened.
Go ahead.
No, that's definitely what happened. You guys gave up, which, I mean, you do wonder if the team has given up as a whole, you know, to have such a promising start, to lose in heartbreaking fashion to Clemson, knowing at that point that your chance of winning the Atlantic were practically gone, and then just kind of gave up going forward. I mean, we saw poor performances across the board after that, none worse than Florida State, and it seemed like a team that was mentally just kind of checked out.
And if you were the Syracuse AD, how would you handle the Dino Babers situation?
You're joking. We're going to double. I'm sorry.
Extension.
We're going to double overtime here in the Champions Classic unless this goes. It does not. Golly, you're kidding me. We can't catch a break.
No, we can't catch it. It's snowing really bad here, and now the game's going into overtime.
Oh, my gosh. How would I handle the situation, Jerry? Honestly, let's see how these next two games play out. You're 6-4. You know, do you win one of your games and finish seven wins, possibly win the next and get to 8 with a bowl win? Do you win your next 2, finish 8? You know, playing Wake Forest on the road does not look promising to me. I think that's going to not go over well. So you know, it's a matter of how you finish. You know, are you finishing with a 6-6 record? Do you finish with a 7-5 record? Basically, do you finish with a winning record regardless? I think if Dino Babers produces a winning record, and keep in mind that could include 6-6 plus a bowl win, that he stays. That's a winning season, and that's what they're looking for. If he fails to do that and they just go 6-6 and lose their bowl game, I think he could be out. Because it's great you guys to the postseason, but after the start we had, we expected much better, and I think it's tempering expectations. But I'm right there with you when it comes to that.
And do you see like a dark horse making this college football playoff, like a Clemson, North Carolina, or even like an Alabama? I know they're not going to be playing for the SEC championship, but I've heard some people been saying like there is a way Alabama, Clemson, one of those teams still could get in, like if a lot happens within the next few weeks.
Yeah, I don't. I'm going to bring up the rankings from last week as well, just so we can kind of look at that. I don't think that they're going to be able to get in. If you look at what we're dealing with now, it would just it would need to be absolute chaos. And the problem with Alabama and Clemson, I'm going to tell you right now, I think Clemson has a better shot of getting in than Alabama, and here's why. Alabama is obviously not playing for their conference championship. They have 2 losses. And, you know, although the 2 losses are to good teams in LSU and Tennessee, I don't think they're going to let in they're not going to let in a 2-loss team that didn't even win their conference. It's just not going to happen. It's just not possible, especially when you have Tennessee as a 1-loss team who's not going to win the East, but very well has a good shot to get in. Alabama's not getting in unless absolute chaos unfolds, and that would include Tennessee slipping up to a bad team in one of these next 2 weeks, Georgia slipping up. It'd be worse. Now, Clemson has a better shot. The resume is not going to be there. They've got to beat Miami and South Carolina, then North Carolina in the ACC championship game. Clemson does not have the strength of schedule to get there, but if teams do lose ahead of them, if USC slips up, if LSU slips up, if Tennessee slips up, which I doubt they will, they're going to need a lot of help. Clemson has a better shot to get in there than Alabama. So no, I don't think there's really any dark horse to get in there. I mean, the closest dark horse I could give you would be USC, but they're probably going to be the 7th ranked team in the country tonight, so I don't really think that'd be considered a dark horse.
Yeah, I mean, USC is still there, but even if they win the Pac-12, they need like TCU to lose, Michigan, LSU. There's still like a lot for them to get in, though. Right. But I can't wait for the 12-team playoff next year. That's going to be a lot more fun.
I fully agree. Hey, Jerry, thanks for calling in, man. We're going to try to open it up for a few more calls as the second overtime runs through, but thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Take care, buddy.
You too, man.
Bye.
All right, that was our good friend Jerry Turner, all the way from New York. Big Syracuse fan, and we appreciate him. Jerry, thanks for calling in. As we are now in the second overtime of Kentucky and Michigan State, still anxiously awaiting the new college football playoff rankings for Week 12. Want to give a couple more shout-outs for people that have been kind of coming through the chat while we've been on the phone. I know we talked to Icy Baller J, William McInville, John Scribob. I know we talked about him. Truancy called in earlier. We appreciate him. Pat Bateman, happy to see you. Jay Jetta's Production, big old Justin Jefferson fan, huh? He's a Minnesota guy. Gophers fan, of course. Appreciate you. John says fire Sam Pittman. Not entirely opposed, but it won't happen. Jerry says fire Dino Babers. Someone said fire Kirby Smart. Holly B says Kirby forever and says, why are we doing this? Why are we delaying? Why are we delaying the ranking show and for basketball? She's like, come on, priorities. That's what I'm saying, right? You run into this problem here. We're trying to hype up a whole ranking show. We could have had it done by now and could be talking about it, but no, we got to sandwich them between two marquee matchups. Imagine if you were ready to watch Duke and Kansas coming up. You know, they're not supposed to start until they were supposed to start at 9 o'clock or 8:30 or 9, and that's not going to happen. So very unfortunate. We're getting another call here. Let's get them on. All right, you were on the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have with us? Who's that? Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well, doing well. We're ready for this basketball game to end. We're ready for it to be over.
Yeah, it's on double overtime.
Yeah. So what's going on, man? What are we talking about today?
The Michigan and Ohio State game.
All right. Yeah. What about it? What's on the mind?
I think Michigan will blow out Ohio State because Ohio State can barely beat a Northwestern team.
So you think Michigan's going to walk into Columbus and win by a lot? Give me a score. Give me a score prediction.
36-21.
Okay, 36-21, 15 points. I like it. So let me ask you, what's your favorite part about Michigan? Are you a Michigan fan?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your go-to thing with Michigan? Who's your favorite player? Is it Blake Corum?
This season, yeah.
This season, yeah. Who's your favorite all time?
Probably what's his name? Charles Woodson.
Well, who was it? Charles Woodson?
Yeah.
That's a good pick. I like that. Well, I know it's a bold prediction, man. I tell you to have Michigan winning by double digits in the horseshoe against Ohio State, but it's not. You know, you play these games for a reason. You know, you have to play the games for a reason, and anything can happen on any given Saturday. I will say the Ohio State did barely beat Northwestern. Now, granted, that was a horrible weather game, 40-mile-per-hour winds, a lot of rain. So you don't want to rule them out completely. You know, take it with a grain of salt. But Michigan's a dang good team. I think Michigan does have the defense to slow down C.J. Stroud in that offense. We clearly saw it last year. This is a game that could be a playoff play-in game. So that's definitely going to be the game of the week next week. And we'll actually have an official prediction right here on the channel, man, for that game. So make sure you tune in next week, and we'll talk all about Michigan for you. All right, man. I appreciate you calling in. All right, you have a good night.
You too.
All right, I love it. I think he said his name was. I want to say it might have been Daryl Davis or Darius. I can't remember what his name was. It sounded like it started with a D. It was kind of mute, but great calling, great job, and I love the pick. I do like bold predictions here on the channel. I will tell you that. All right. Tyler Phelps, good to see you. Yugi Man 94, good to see you. 2016 Cavaliers, nice to see you. Holly B, Robert Sharpton, JJ, nice to see you. And Michael Buck, good to see you. Michael, if you are still here, we are happy to have you. Check your fantasy, Michael, and let me know what you think of that trade. Michael, good to see you. He goes, I think Pulaski Tech should get in there. I like that. Wouldn't that be something if we could see community college get some national respect? We should see a community college get some national respect. They would be Pulaski Tech would not only be the first community college to make the college football playoff, they would be the first community college or first program ever to get into the playoff without a football team. So that'd be something. And he says, Michael, you're right, though. LSU looked pretty bad against a mediocre Arkansas team without some key coaching mistakes. I think Arkansas wins that game with their third-string quarterback. And I do agree with you on that. Arkansas should have won that game. They made a poor choice keeping Malik Hornsby in the game for as long as they did. They made a poor choice not kicking the field goal when they were inside the 10-yard line. You know, Arkansas, for years now, has struggled to score for some reason inside the red zone. It's unbelievable. They have struggled to, that dates all the way back to the Brett Bielema days. You know, you would think teams with such a strong offensive line could do it, and they just can't. Arkansas recovered a fumble at the 10-yard line, had 4 shots from the 10-yard line to get in the end zone, couldn't do it. And Sam Pittman chose to go for it deep in that territory instead of kicking the field goal. Came back to bite him. If Arkansas had taken the points there, the game would have gone to overtime, and who knows what could have happened. But I agree. Arkansas should have won that game. Unfortunately, that's not going to hurt LSU in the rankings because there's no one behind LSU that has the ability to jump them. But Michael, I appreciate you calling in, commenting, man. Happy to see you back on the chat. We'll definitely be talking soon. We got our guy Hunter from South Carolina. This will be our last caller of the night, in theory. All right, Hunter, how's it going, man?
Doing well. Let's get right into it. I got some questions for you.
I love it. I love it. Let's do it, Hunter. Lay it on me.
All right. So I want to hear your opinions about some of these teams and about the bowl games that are going to be happening this season. So I want to hear your predictions for the bowl games. You don't got to go in depth. I just want to hear them really quick.
Okay. What about you got some? Were you laying them on me?
No, I'm asking you. What are your predictions?
Oh, just for the top bowl games?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The New York Six Bowls.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I thought you were going to say you were going to give me a team. All right. I pulled up the rankings from last week just to kind of give everybody a look at what they were looking like from last week. New Year's 600 right now, based on my rankings, my playoff rankings as of now, I ultimately think TCU is not. Well, I'll take that back. I think I'm going to stick to the Final Four. So your playoff right now is going to be your top four. My top four is the same as the committee. So Georgia, TCU, Ohio State will make it over Michigan. I think Tennessee gets in there as well. I think Michigan losing to Ohio State might keep the Wolverines out and might propel Tennessee in. So I'm going to go out there and say maybe you have a Georgia, Tennessee, and Ohio State, TCU in your playoff. I'm going to go out on a limb and say TCU doesn't lose out or lose a game the rest of the year. The rest of the way through, Hunter, I'm going to say that I think Oregon still bounces back and wins the Pac-12, so I think Oregon is going to make the playoff over USC, the Rose Bowl over USC. So I'm going to say Oregon and Michigan in the Rose Bowl. I think you're going to see Alabama, as many have projected, probably Alabama and Clemson in the Orange Bowl. That seems to be the most popular pick, and I'll stick with that because I don't think either team will lose the rest of the way. So those are your two playoff games. There's the Rose, there's the Sugar, and the Cotton Bowl. As of now, I'm going to give the edge to UCF. UCF is going to go in there, and they're probably going to play. Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, someone said UCF and Notre Dame. Someone said Washington. That's a toss-up. I'm going to go UCF Penn State right now, to be honest with you. I'll say Penn State, go out on a limb.
All right. Well, I'm surprised that I came to you to see if it was going to probably happen, but you agree with the predictions that Clemson, Alabama, even though they're not in the college football playoff, are still going to play.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a money grab. I think a lot of people are going to want to see Alabama and Clemson play. It's kind of become a big rivalry in college football. It's almost Lakers-Celtic-esque. Two historic teams that played so many times in a semifinal or a national championship. It's kind of a rival that wasn't up until they started meeting in the playoff. So an opportunity for anybody, anytime they have an opportunity to pair Alabama and Clemson together, I think they're going to do it. So I think they're going to, if possible, they're going to find a way to have them play in a bowl game.
All right, so I'm looking at the games this week. It's kind of a boring week. Only two ranked matchups, and it's going to be Utah versus Oregon. So I want to hear your thoughts on that game.
Yeah, it's confusing, man. I wish this was a top 10. I wish this was going to be a top 10 game across the board. And I wish that USC and UCLA was going to be a top 10 game across the board. And it's just not. But it's really just going to be a matter of, does Oregon bounce back? Oregon lost to Washington. Their playoff hopes are dashed. Do they bounce back knowing they can still make the Rose Bowl and win the Pac-12 championship, or do they sink? I think Oregon bounces back. I think they're going to be able to get the win over Utah at home.
All right. So I want to hear your opinion on the highest-ranked non-Power 5 team in the nation right now, Tulane. I want to hear your opinions on them. Do you think that they're probably going to make a New Year's Six bowl game if they win out, or are they going to make a bowl game like the Cheez-It Bowl or something like that?
Well, considering they lost to UCF this last Saturday, they will not be in a New Year's Six bowl game. Their hopes were dashed after that. Right now, the front runner for me is going to be UCF as the group of 5 team to get there. Should be UCF. And, obviously the AAC is really up for grabs right now. It could be UCF versus Cincinnati. It could be UCF versus Tulane in the championship game. And if UCF loses that championship game, Tulane might find a way to sneak in there, but it's not looking likely. So I think it's going to be the Knights finally back in a New Year's Six bowl game after a couple of years off.
All right, now the biggest debate between my family, my friends, and everybody that I know is TCU legit?
After watching them against Texas, I'm going to say yes. I will preach it again. Their win over Texas was the most impressive performance from them this season. To go on the road at night against a ranked team and shut down that offense and one of the best running backs in the entire country in Bijan Robinson, that was very impressive to me. So a lot of people were giving them a lot of hate, saying, oh, they've only beat up on backup quarterbacks, haven't played anybody that good. That win over Texas, especially defensively, was very, very impressive to me and proved to me that they are definitely legit and worthy of the attention. So, yeah, I think TCU will probably be undefeated heading into the Big 12 championship game, and it's just a matter of if they can beat, more than likely, Kansas State in that game to get into the playoff.
All right. Well, that's pretty much all the questions I got for you this week. Yeah, you answered them flawlessly. So, I'll call next live stream and see what your opinions on next week's college football game. But, that's all the questions I have for you.
All right, Hunter, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for calling in.
All right, see ya.
All right, I'm going to take our number off of the top here. Thank you, Hunter, for calling in. I tell you what, this guy, not only does he know his stuff, but he's got such a great way of handling these call-ins. He's just like, all right, listen, I've got a couple of questions, and you're going to answer them. And then when I'm done asking the questions, I'm going to hang up. I'm like, all right, good. Quick and simple. Like, quick and to the point. I love it. I love how direct he is with it. So, Hunter, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for the call. Thanks for the support. And we're not going to triple overtime, thank God. It doesn't look like it. Michigan State up 6 with 18 seconds left. And Kentucky's going to foul, of course, more than likely. And maybe they can just buy some time here. Yeah, 13 seconds. We just keep it going. Come on, let's get there. But no more call-ins now because we are about to get to the rankings finally. And then we'll give you a quick analysis live as they're coming through. And then we'll call it a night because I unfortunately do have to go. We will not. I'm actually going to be on the road, so we're not going to have a live stream tomorrow as I'm driving around, unfortunately. But that's why I want to get on tonight, have a good live stream with you guys, good discussion tonight. We appreciate all of you that have joined, whether it's now, whether it's later, as we anxiously await to see the new top 25 poll. All right, so I appreciate college football guy, big North Carolina fan. Happy to see you here. Tyler Phelps, go Gators. JD, the guitarist. I love that name. Awesome. Very, very cool. Always want to learn how to play guitar. Can play piano. Don't know how to play guitar. Let's see who else we have. Who else is on here? JJ, of course, Balloon Dagger. Let's see, Kentucky puts up a shot. Shanks it. Come on, just end it. Go Gators. Am I going to do a Florida State prediction? Possibly. We're going to wait and see kind of what the rankings look like heading into next week. Not this upcoming Saturday, but next week. Obviously, they don't play until the season finale. We'll have a lot of coverage, though. I mean, next week is the season finale for all these teams. Regular season finale. It is rivalry week, which is exciting. Getting to see all the rivals play each other. It's sad that the regular season's coming to an end, but it's also exciting for all the top matchups that we're going to get to see. So, depending on how each of those teams fare this week, I think Florida should beat Vanderbilt and Florida State should beat Louisiana, but we may or may not have a prediction on that. So, you just got to come back to the channel and find out, man. Just got to find out. Make sure you subscribed. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're liking the chat, guys, because, come on, Kentucky. What are you doing? Come on. That's Calipari for you. All right. Couple other shout outs to some guys that I haven't been able to get to. Let's see here. I love the discussion about from Michael talking about Arkansas, LSU, and a couple of jokes. Hassan A. Where will UNC be ranked tonight? I think the highest they'll be ranked, Hassan, is 12th. I think 12th is a good spot. That's where I have them ranked, actually, North Carolina at 12. Would love to see North Carolina in the top 10. I think that would make things very interesting. If they could get to the top 10, that'd make things very interesting, but I don't think that's going to happen. Don't think it's gonna, but that would make the conversation interesting to say, hey, if North Carolina wins out, including a win over Clemson, could you make that argument for them getting in if they have a little help from a team like TCU losing, USC losing, and things like that? Could they get in there? That would be an interesting concept. So, but I think 12th would be appropriate for the Tar Heels. And I know College Football Guy would be interested in that as well. Christopher Broughton, good to see you, man. He says Drew Henson from Michigan. I like that. Hunter, again, thank you for calling in. Kyle McDonald, TCU is going to have their chance against Michigan on a neutral field more than likely. They're going to get smoked, though. I don't know. That would require Michigan to beat Ohio State, or TCU and Michigan facing off in a bowl game, if neither of them make the playoff. But I think Ohio State's going to beat Michigan next week, although we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Jamie Phillips, my question is, do you think if Georgia and Tennessee played in the college football playoffs, who wins? At a neutral site? I'm still going to say Georgia. Personally. I'll go with them. JD the Qatar says anyone plays Georgia is going to lose. Right now, it definitely seems to be the case. Keaton Pulley, who else is thrilled Alabama has lost twice? He goes, everyone is. Everyone is. Marquise Strum, good to see you. Balloon Dagger, good to see you. Daryl Davis, good to see you as well. Demo Goody, good to see you. Carl, good to see you. Happy all of you guys could join us tonight as we're finally about to get over to these rankings, and hopefully they don't delay them very much heading into it. See what else. 2016 Cavaliers. Who is my basketball team? My basketball team is the same as my college team. It is Arkansas, believe it or not. Got my helmet that way. Back over there behind me. Got the Arkansas rep. I got Texas on there. We got an LSU helmet somewhere back here. Yeah. So this is probably going to be your number 6 team in the country tonight, LSU Tigers. So we're slowly but surely adding to our collection of helmets back here. And so, of course, if you guys want to send your own team and have it displayed right here, we're going to keep expanding. If you want that, send it our way. We'd appreciate that. But yes, Arkansas is that. My favorite ice cream flavor. I saw your question. I'm a plain guy, man. I love just chocolate. Anything, man. You hook me up with some chocolate, I'm gonna be excited. Anything candy, chocolate, ice cream, chocolate cake. Good stuff. I like chocolate ice cream too, for sure. Do I like pineapple on pizza? I'm indifferent. I mean, it's not my favorite. It's not going to be my first choice by any means. Meat lovers, probably the go-to. I feel like more protein, the better, right? But yeah. Good question. I like the question. I like talking about other things other than football too. Good stuff. Logan Keating, Sports Country. Where am I going, if you don't mind? Yes, because tomorrow we're not going to have a live stream. I'm actually heading out, going down to Texas, believe it or not. Going down to Texas. For a little trip. Texas, and then Texas for a few days for work, and then back up to Fayetteville on Saturday to catch Arkansas and Ole Miss. We're going to watch Arkansas and Ole Miss in Fayetteville on Saturday night. So anyone that's going to be in the Fayetteville area, hit us up. Comment, send us an email. We'd love to meet you. Love to say hi. I don't know if anybody's going to be there for that game. Rebel fans or Razorback fans, we will be in Fayetteville for that game. So we're very excited about that. So Texas, going south, then back up, then back over for traveling. So it's going to be wild. We actually filmed all of our videos ahead for you guys, so we'll be able to get that out to you guys tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. Trey's football highlights. Where will Ohio State be ranked? They'll be second. Do they have a chance to win the national championship? Absolutely. Absolutely they do. Yes, the game is over, Brian. The game is over, thank God. And we are 3 minutes out from the rankings, and hopefully they'll jump into those quickly, move through them quickly, and we'll be good to go. That's the goal. That is the goal. But we're happy to see all of you guys here tonight, all 114 of you. Again, if you're new to the channel, before we get to these rankings, guys, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Gridiron Expert. We're so glad you could be here, so glad you could join us for a big night. We're looking at the new set of rankings. Please like this live stream. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. What are you going to get from us here? You're going to get, first off, 100% transparency. You're going to get nonstop interaction from me, whether you join our free Gridiron Expert Discord server, comments on videos, comments in the chat. We're going to address them. We're going to talk to you because we're building a community here. We are building the GE Nation. And we are really, really excited about it. So you're going to get a personalized college football experience right here at the Gridiron Expert. Predictions almost every single day, analysis every single day, whether it's on our website, thegridironexpert.com, whether it's right here on the channel, whether it's on the Discord. This is the place for college football year round. We don't just take a 6-month break or so when the national championship ends. No, we are talking college football year round right here at the Gridiron Expert. So if you like that idea, if you love the game, this is the place for you. Like the stream, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss future videos and live streams like this, and we'll look forward to having you as a part of our GE Nation. Reach out to us through email. Reach out to us on the chat. We are excited to keep building something very special here at the channel. And again, I want to plug this. We are trying to reach 12,000 subs by the end of the season. That's a long ways away, but I think we can do it with the help of you guys and the help of the nation. And also, we're trying to reach 100 Expert Pick subscriptions. And again, we're only 8 away from that. If you love college football and you are ready to win some money, this is the place for you. We're beating out over 80% of the national analysts and handicappers. We've done so each of the last 4 years. We're hitting 62% of our bets this year. We're hitting 81% on the money line. You're not going to find prices like this anywhere else this low. You're not going to find numbers and accuracy rates like what we're providing anywhere else as well. You're certainly not going to get transparency and customer service like we were able to provide and our team was able to provide. 8 more of those bad boys, and we are doing a 24-hour live stream. A 24-hour live stream with 8 more Expert Pick subscriptions. You will make that money back in a weekend. You would make that money back in a weekend. We can guarantee you that. So help us out. Go subscribe. Come win some money with us. Get some extra picks analysis. It's basically premium content. We'd love to have you. And you not only make your money back immediately, you get something out of it, and you get a 24-hour live stream right here on the channel. What's not to love about that? What's not to love? And our picks for this week have already been released for college and NFL over on our website and over in the Discord server as well underneath the specific tabs, only for those that purchase. All right, we are coming up on the top 25. Again, college football guy, we won't have Wacky Wednesday tomorrow, unfortunately. Again, we're going to be traveling, so we're not going to be here tomorrow. But next time, yes, banana shirt always. We wore it last week. That seems to be the natural thing to go for Wacky Wednesday. That's going to be the look going forward for sure. So I appreciate you. 2016 Cavaliers, my into anime. I am not into anime. I've never really watched it, never been interested. Yes, I will still. Oh, he says to carry on the tradition. Yes, tomorrow on the road, I will be wearing the banana shirt for sure to carry on the tradition. I think that's what I'm going to start doing from now on. When I'm at work on a Wednesday, banana shirt. Live stream, banana shirt. Normal video, banana shirt. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Harold Perkins, yeah, is killing it with LSU. He dominated Arkansas, single-handedly beat Arkansas last week. Was very, very impressive. Logan Keating, no, I have not been to Louisville, Kentucky. That is on my list, though. I don't think I've been to Kentucky, period, if I'm being honest with you. I've been out that direction. I've been pretty far east, but I have not been to Kentucky. I've never been to Lexington to see the Wildcats. I've never been to Louisville to see the Cardinals. Both stadiums are on my list. I've got a list of stadiums I've been looking to visit. Obviously, we do on-site predictions during the summer. At least we try to. And we didn't get to do it last year, unfortunately. But we do like to travel to a bunch of stadiums to visit, whether it's to watch a game or bring you predictions. And Louisville and Kentucky are certainly up there. I have been to Clemson. Been able to go to Clemson. Been to Virginia Tech. Been to Virginia. Been to a couple out there, but have not made my way to Kentucky, unfortunately. Doggy, I'm not sure if I saw the question before. No, I don't think it was justified, Doggy. I really don't. I think it was wrong for them not to rank them. And the committee's going to try to act like they're geniuses and go, well, the reason, see, they lost to UConn. Told you why we shouldn't rank them. We'll come back to that in a second. The rankings are out now. Cincinnati 25, NC State 24, Oregon State, so Connor's happy, back in. Interesting to see Oklahoma State and Oregon State back in the top 25. Oklahoma State's certainly going to benefit TCU. So we talked about that at the beginning of the stream. Were those teams going to be able to get in? I strongly disagree with NC State still being ranked. They really have not defeated anybody worthwhile to still be ranked. And when you lose at home to a bad Boston College team, That to me is unacceptable. So dropping 8 and remaining in there is a bad look. It does help Clemson, though. So interesting to see there. Maybe they're thinking if Clemson wins out and some teams lose, they could make a case to get Clemson in that top 4. Strongly disagree with NC State. Cincinnati joining the mix, though, guys. They will play Tulane next week. Not this Saturday, but next week. That's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that. Notre Dame only up 2-18. Florida State up there. UCF at number 20. So what that shows me is that they don't take much value in the group of 5. I mean, UCF goes on the road and beats the number 17 team in the country and only moves up 2 spots. So the margin is going to be very, very close. Again, very, very close between UCF, Tulane, and potentially Cincinnati for that group of 5 representative in a New Year's Six bowl game. Strongly disagree with that. Notre Dame at 18. Washington up 8. So Oregon still ranked above them as we projected, as we believe it should have been. We had Oregon at 13 and Washington at 15. So Washington at 17. UCLA only dropping. So UCLA only dropping 4. And now, is this not interesting that they're doing this? Maybe to help USC out a little bit. Into 11 through 15. Ole Miss only dropping 3. Kansas State up 4 following their blowout win over Baylor. NC State at 13. We said we thought they should be 12th. Can't get horribly mad being one off. Penn State at 11. That's actually where we had Penn State, was at number 11. Oregon at 12, which is we had Oregon at 13. We had North Carolina right above them. I agree with Oregon dropping 6. I think out of the top 10 obviously is justified following their loss. But you drop Oregon 6 spots for a 3-point loss at home to a good Washington team. You only drop UCLA 4 spots after losing at home to a bad Arizona team. You only drop NC State to 24th following a bad loss to a BC team. Where's the consistency here? Where's the consistency there? Because it would have been one thing if Oregon had lost to a bad team. They lost to a good Washington team who was ranked in the top 25. So I strongly disagree with that. Clearly, it's not showing consistency in how high they're going to rank a team or move a team and how low they're going to drop a team. So that, to me, is very, very interesting. And not sure I agree with that. Utah cracking the top 10. We had them at number 8, cracking the top. And we've always been a little high on Utah, I think, so having them at 10 is not horrible. And they deserve to be in the top 10 for sure. And again, that's going to help out USC in the long run if they can continue to beat UCLA. Because if Utah keeps winning out, I mean, if Utah's able to beat Oregon 10-12 this Saturday, that's going to shoot Utah up quite a bit. Clemson in at number 9. We had Clemson at 10, so you can't be too upset with that. But Clemson's still in the top 10, as to be expected, with their win over Louisville. But I'm not thrilled with these rankings right now. I'm not thrilled with what we're seeing here. But Clemson up to number 9. That's okay with me. I'm not entirely upset with that. Again, we had them at 10. Moving up to 9 is not bad. Curious to see what happens next. I imagine the next one will probably Alabama. I'd imagine it'll be Alabama or USC. And that's going to be the interesting thing here. Do they credit Alabama? They do not. So they give Alabama a 1-spot job. It was going to be interesting to see would they give Alabama preference despite having 2 losses over USC. Because Alabama got a better win on the road against Ole Miss, USC only beating Colorado. So in theory, the next team should be USC. That would be 7th. And then the top 6 should go as we would expect. LSU, Tennessee, 6 and 5. And then TCU, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia. That should be the way it goes. So they're going to draw it out as they do. So obviously, guys, a lot of things to take away here. What we talked about at the beginning of this video, at the beginning of this stream, was, again, the importance of the lower rankings. Oregon State being ranked is huge in helping Oregon. Sure, they play next week, but more so USC, who's already defeated Oregon State on the road. Obviously, seeing Oklahoma State getting in there, I believe they deserved it. We had them at 24th. That helps TCU, who's at number 4 right now, saying they still have a ranked win based on what the committee has right now. Those lower teams help the higher ranked teams. And obviously, if those teams win, if Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma, if Oregon State wins this next week, I believe they're playing Arizona State. If they keep winning, they're going to remain in the rankings, and that's going to help those higher teams, especially if they keep winning. It boosts their resume because the committee's going to say, look, they have these wins over teams that we believe are top 25 teams. So it helps them in the long run. It helps them in the long run. But I have an issue with, first off, is NC State being ranked. NC State really hasn't played anybody. And to lose as a 19-point favorite to a bad Boston College team, that should not keep you in the top 25 at all. The inconsistency has not been there, or the inconsistency has been there in terms of how much we're going to raise a team, how much we're going to drop a team. UCLA loses at home to Arizona, we drop them 4. Oregon loses at home to a 25 team, we drop them 6. Where's the consistency? Going into the top 4 now, obviously we see Georgia at 1, Ohio State at 2, should be Michigan and TCU at 3 and 4. We should not really see any controversy on this slide that they have for us coming here. I think they should be able to go through these pretty quick. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, obviously, barring any crazy upsets, we will see the number 2 and number 3 team in the country face off next week in the game in Columbus. Number 4 should be TCU. Barring any crazy changes. And again, there would be no reason for that. There you go, TCU in at 4. Then it should be Tennessee, LSU, and USC. That should be how the rest of the rankings pan out. And we don't have an issue with that. I legitimately don't have an issue with that if that's the case. It's the bottom set of rankings that we do have a problem with. And let's just kind of see if they close this out the way we think that they will. And take a little bit of a second. But again, I disagree with NC State being where they are. The fact that NC State is still in the top 25, I have a problem with, as Tennessee clearly comes in at number 5, should be followed by LSU, followed by USC. But again, it's inconsistency, and what it's doing is it's creating preference. You know what this is doing is it's helping these upper teams to sometimes to an extent where they should not be helped. And I do have a problem with that. NC State staying in is going to help Clemson in the long run. It's going to help North Carolina in the long run. If NC State can win this week and North Carolina can win this week as well, it will set up a top 25 showdown between North Carolina and NC State, continuing to boost the resumes of the Tar Heels, which could continue to boost the resume of Clemson. So you think about that and what that could do potentially down the road for these teams going forward. Now, it'll be interesting to see, would they even consider moving USC to 6 over LSU because of LSU's poor performance against Arkansas? I highly doubt it. There you go. LSU at 6 and then USC at 7. So that wraps it up. Nice little bow, as it should be. Top 7, I don't have an issue with. It went exactly as we expected. At the beginning of this stream, we said those were going to be the top 6 teams. We didn't know exactly who number 7 was going to be. Would it be USC? Would it be Alabama? But obviously, we don't have an issue with USC being 7th and Alabama being right behind them at 8th. And then Clemson at 9, Utah at 10. I'm not even upset with the top 10. What the problem I have ultimately with the committee guys is, again, what we saw down the stretch and the inconsistency with how they rank the teams. Where's the mindset here? You lose a home game to a top 25 team, you drop 6. You lose a home game as a 14-something point underdog to a 3-win team, you drop 4. You lose a home game to like a 2-win team as a 19-point favorite, you drop 8, but we're going to keep you in the top 25. Most teams would not get that luxury. It just doesn't make sense. The consistency needs to be there, and it isn't. And many of you agree. Doggy says the committee acting stupid again. No way NC State should be ranked. I agree with that. They should not be ranked. It ultimately, though, is going to benefit North Carolina. It is going to benefit Clemson, and that's what they're trying to do to continue to boost those resumes. I agree UCF was underranked. UCF goes on the road, puts on a great performance against Tulane, only moves up to 20th, and is only 1 spot ahead of Tulane, which is keeping that door open for the American champion to make the New Year's Six bowl game. UCF, though, has no leeway. They have no leverage. UCF's at 20th, Tulane at 21st, Cincinnati at 25. Cincinnati plays Tulane in the season finale. The winner of that probably will play UCF in the AAC championship game, and the winner of that goes to a New Year's Six bowl game. So that's going to be very interesting to me to see that. And the fact that, last week Tulane was 17th and UCF was 22nd, and now they're right there on top of each other. I think there should be at least a 2 or 3 spot gap in between the Knights and Tulane. I had UCF at number 18 and Tulane at 21st, so I actually agree with that, with Tulane being at 21st, but UCF should have been a little higher. Notre Dame, maybe someone thought, could have been a little higher. Same with Florida State, who dominated Syracuse, who the committee was high on not too long ago, and clearly does not think they should be much higher anymore. Obviously, it's just an inconsistency thing, guys. That's kind of the problem. The committee has struggled with this for years. Again, I do not have an issue with the top 10. Every team in the top 10 I had in my top 10, just probably in a little bit of a different order, but I did have them in our top 10. Penn State at 11 is fine. North Carolina at 13 is fine. I had them at 12. Oregon at 12. I had them at 13. So I don't have any issues with that. It's those lower set of the rankings and more than anything, the consistency of how we are moving and lowering teams based on the results that happen on the field. You look at it now and you might be okay with some of it. The problem I have with it is a biased thing because they are doing that on purpose to benefit teams like Clemson, like USC, maybe like Utah, to create interesting concepts in the Pac-12 going forward based on the results that we're going to have this week. USC plays UCLA, Oregon plays Utah. The results of those games can be very interesting to see how it plays out going forward. Wow. What a night. This was not the most exciting of rankings, guys. We didn't have any chaos. The first two set of rankings, we did have confusion, or we had doubt. Who was going to be in the top 4? Who was going to be 5 and 6 right on the outside looking in? We didn't know for sure. We knew who the top 6 was going to be tonight, unless they had just made a flaw. We had a pretty good feeling who those top 6 teams were going to be. Everything else was kind of up for grabs. I do agree with part of it, but this was not the most exciting of nights, obviously. Next week easily could be, if we see a handful of upsets. We will see 2 Pac-12 teams go down, so how they rank those teams. And if the Pac-12 playoff hopes are dashed, if UCLA wins, that's going to be on the line. And we'll be talking about that next week as well. But obviously, the playoff rankings heading into, after the season finale, heading into conference championship weekend, those are going to be the big ones. Where do the teams stand heading into their championship games? What do teams need to do or hope happens for them to get in? That's what's going to be the most exciting. So it's probably going to be about another 2 weeks where we really see some chaos, but it's coming. It is coming. And with that, guys, we will wrap things up tonight. I know we went a little longer than expected, and we had to, thanks to Kentucky and Michigan State. They will forever hold a bad spot in my heart for making us wait this long for these rankings. But having said all of that, guys, we appreciate you. You kind of got our instant reaction. I'm sorry we couldn't stay longer, but we had to wrap things up. We appreciate every single one of you, and for sticking around, for calling in, for chatting, for subscribing, for liking, for the super chats from Matthew and Eugene. We appreciate both of you. So I want to give a couple shout outs here before we wrap up. Infinite Trex, James F., Robert Sharpton, Stephen Cuffey, Daryl Davis, Doggy, Eric Rambo, Brian Donovan, Ben James, 2016 Cavaliers against Stephen Cuffey, Logan Keating, Sports Country, that's what I'm talking about. Matthew Hazelhorst, of course, Eugene Murphy, Go Gators, JD the guitarist, Carl R. Balloon Dagger, Go Gators. Let's see here. Michael Buck, John, Truancy's World, Jerry Turner, Holly Abi, JJ, Scotty B, the Baylor King, my man DM, Dave, haven't seen him in a while, but Dave and Max Todd, we appreciate you, Noah Rodriguez, Tyler Phelps, and countless others that I may not be able to see or may have forgotten. Sarah Brown, of course, Dion Thacker, all of you guys, we appreciate you and your support. Thank you all for popping in. No live stream tomorrow, but we will have content. Tomorrow we have our USC UCLA video. Thursday, Utah and Oregon. Friday, a special playoff preview video. Do not miss that one. We're going to be talking about playoff scenarios, so you do not want to miss that. And countless other content, more content coming your way over these next few weeks. A lot of college football left to be played, guys, which means we have a lot of college football content to produce for you right here on the Gridiron Expert. So again, thank you all so much for your support. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any of the content we have coming for you the rest of the season. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert. Have a great rest of your night.